Welcome back to Torn Apart, and I'm here once again to talk to you about movies. It's been quite a while, right? I've been in the midst of moving out of this beautiful apartment.
Paper! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! No! God, please, no! No!
I'm gonna be missing a couple of these DVDs. I'm putting them in boxes. It's been quite tragic and it takes such a long time because behind me I have like 1300 DVDs and Blu-rays and 4K Blu-rays. It's absolutely insane, but at least I will have a little bit more space in the new apartment. So it is possible actually that this might be my last video for a really long time. But since we're here, let's talk about something that we all love. I actually have another video on a Wes Anderson movie called Asteroid City, and I remember back then there were a lot of people making the rankings of the entire filmography, so we're gonna be updating that one as well because I did it in my previous video. And of course there's gonna be a little bit of a recency bias when it comes to this new release because, as you can probably tell, I don't know how you'd be able to tell, maybe the fact that my background is incredibly organized and structured. I just love when a frame is perfect, and I love Wes Anderson. I love almost every single one of his movies, and often actually if I don't like his previous movies, it has more to do with the fact that he didn't really have his style, first of all, like at the beginning of his career, for example, or maybe because the subject of the entire movie didn't really speak to me or I didn't really relate to it. But I always have a couple of interesting arguments, of course.
Why are you shooting my ceiling?
This is a robbery on behalf of...
I understand that. I'm asking about my ceiling. You idiots are destroying a magnificent nightclub.
What about the Phoenician Scheme? What did I think about it? I feel like it's definitely one of the most political movies that Wes Anderson has ever made, and this is also why I really loved it, because it's really hard to make a political thriller like this that is still incredibly fun, incredibly colorful and interesting to look at, because I feel like the political kind of spy thriller genre is kind of like submerged under a layer of gray tones and incredibly like bored out of their lives actors giving you incredibly like not mediocre performances, but definitely like deadpan performances. This genre is definitely not for the vibrant people, it's not for the weirdos, and it's definitely not for the wizards and the magicians, because well, this movie has a lot of incredibly fun magic tricks that can definitely go back into film history, like the early 20s for example, and definitely the silent era of movie making. Honestly, like this movie has so many things going on for it, but first of all, maybe let's talk about the plot. What is this movie about? And it's basically about the character of Benicio del Toro, who is constantly getting assassination threats, and he keeps escaping them because he's really either lucky or really good at surviving somehow.
Who hired you to kill me?
Oh no. Suicide pedal.
And he's leading on a new mission called the Phoenician Scheme, which is a mission that is basically like an engineering and an architectural project, which is gonna bring him like a lot of money to him and to all the people who are working with him as well. And it's kind of interesting because it definitely reflects back to what the United States have been doing like politically with their foreign policy for a really long time. The idea of investing in other countries, but at the same time making it lucrative for yourself by a lot at the end of the day, especially using the resources of a specific land. Of course, this movie never goes deep into like the depressive part. For example, there is a moment where they actually talk about using slaves and unpaid labor to do most of the construction work that is detailed in the Phoenician Scheme, and they never actually show us these people, they're actually living in this country, and how they're gonna react to the fact that all of these forces are scheming to basically modernize and industrialize their country without basically asking them for their opinion. It's definitely incredibly interesting for the world we're living in right now, with all the different conflicts, when you talk about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, or even Russia versus Ukraine as well, where there are so many nuances, so many things to talk about, so many people that are trying to take advantage of the situation. And unlike, for example, the movie that came out a couple of months ago by Bong Joon-ho, it's not really parodying specific people. Like, you can really tell that this is more about an idea of going to a country and like wanting to make it better, but at the end of the day, it's really not why you're doing it. And it's something that a lot of countries have done in the history of humanity. I'm pretty sure that when people were leaving like Portugal, France, Italy, Holland, or the UK as well, to go and colonize what are now the United States and Latin America as well, they probably thought that they were doing the best that they could to make this place worth it, you know, like to turn it into something profitable. They saw the potential of the land and didn't necessarily care that other people had different styles of living. They just wanted to impose what they thought would be the best. And it's kind of interesting, this whole idea of how when you have money, you have the power to do such incredible things, and also to turn the public opinion against almost anyone, because you just have to turn the phrase in a very specific way so that people can be like, well, he's making a lot of sense when you think about it. I mean, there is a lot of desert and sand there. Why not put a nice skyscraper? Like, at least you're using the land somehow. It's really fascinating the way that like we're trying to westernize other like Asian or Arab countries just because we think that our way is the best way, it's the most rational way.
Normal people want the basic human rights that accompany citizenship in any sovereign nation. I don't. My legal residence is a shack in Portugal. My official domicile is a hut on the Black Sea. My certificated abode is a lodge perched on the edge of a cliff overlooking the sub-Saharan rainforest, accessible only by goat path. I don't live anywhere. I'm not a citizen at all. I don't need my human rights.
And this is also why I think it was an interesting choice, for example, to have a main character played by Benicio del Toro, who is definitely racially ambiguous. You can't really tell exactly where he's supposed to be from in this movie here. And most of the characters as well, for example, Benedict Cumberbatch is playing his brother, but at the same time, you can tell they don't really look alike. And I love also that this movie has a big heart at its center. If there is something we can maybe criticize about his previous film, Asteroid City, is that even though it was incredibly fun, incredibly weird, it was, first of all, mainly shot in one location, the asteroid city itself, which kind of like shackled Wes Anderson a little bit when it came to his creativity. I mean, back then I gave it a perfect score, just to tell you that like I'm nitpicking the hell out of it at this point. But I just want to say that this movie is actually better than Asteroid City, mostly because since it's a spy thriller, we get to travel around different countries and different backgrounds, different locations, and it's so incredibly beautiful to look at. And not only that, I feel like this is one of the first few times, maybe since his stop motion animation like filmmaking, where Wes Anderson did a lot of action. There is a lot of action of people fighting each other, fist fighting, for example, and it's incredibly funny because it really brings you back to like silent movies, basically, where it's ridiculous, but at the same time the stakes are still there, and it makes it feel really new somehow, like just because it's not perfectly choreographed, and it feels like these people are just two normal people trying to harm each other, but at the same time they don't really know how. It just makes it funny and dramatic at the same time. And as I was saying before, the thing that also distances it from Asteroid City and other films in its filmography is the fact that this movie has a really strong heart. I feel like this is one of the most emotionally resonant movies that he's ever made without it being too depressive. Like The Royal Tenenbaums still is one of my favorite of his, but at the same time this could be slightly better somehow just because it resonates more with a lot more people, because the center of this movie is basically a daughter and father relationship, and how basically when you lack that sense of family, it can also like ruin you as a person, as in when you feel so detached from everything, you don't have close friends, you don't have a close family, you're basically like a robot, especially if you have a lot of money, so it gives you like a big ego and you don't don't really know when to stop. If you have people who keep you accountable, so close friends and close family members, then you can actually get better as a person. And this is one thing that I really loved about this film. It was not only about kind of like telling the story act 1, act 2, act 3, because Wes Anderson loves his very structured and clear and plot twisty stories. The French Dispatch is a really good example of that, because the French Dispatch felt very focused on its machinations to the point that it became almost boring. This movie here, because it has such a strong core, it works. It works perfectly, and you want him to go through his plan and you want him to succeed at the end of the day, because you start caring about him thanks to the character played by his daughter, who is actually a nun. And there are so many interesting things going on religious-wise when it comes to how religion, especially Catholicism, have been trying to get as close as possible to power, so to politicians, to rich people just in general, to basically just meddle with the politics of other countries as well. Very interesting topic that maybe they don't explore quite enough, because there is already a lot of things to talk about in this film. I loved most of the performances here. Michael Cera is really fun. I really like the fact that they gave him a lot of different facets to play with when it comes to his character. I'm not gonna spoil you anything about this film, because I feel like it's definitely worth watching and revisiting without knowing anything about it. I think I actually didn't watch the trailer before going to see this movie. Like, I watched it last week and I was there being like, I have no idea what this is about, besides a couple of posters and images that I saw online.
Classic backhand layup.
I beg your pardon?
I didn't say anything.
Did you hear what Mr. Reagan just spoke to me?
And the funny thing is that when I went to the theater, something really funny happened. Basically, the projectionist zoomed in on the film, meaning that instead of the 4:3 format that we had with the movie, we had a classic 16:9 film. And I was sitting there being like, there's something weird. First of all, the subtitles were completely absent at the beginning, and then we started noticing that there were portions of the frame missing. Like, do you remember that scene, for example, where Benicio del Toro's character is talking to his daughter and he's completely framed from head to toe? His daughter is on the opposite side of the room and she's incredibly tiny on a really big wall, right? On that scene there, the movie was actually cutting the head of Benicio del Toro and his feet as well. And I was sitting there being like, Wes Anderson would never do this. Like, this is a weird mistake, and I don't know what the hell is happening right now. So there is a guy who actually stood up and went outside and talked to the guys and being like, there is something wrong with the projection right now. And he actually like screamed out loud, we want to go back and rewatch the entire like 15 minutes of the movie. And honestly, I'm happy that cinephiles are quite weird like that at the cinema, because I missed out on a lot of things. There is a really cool introduction scene where you get all the credits of the actors, where you get to see this bathroom from the top and Benicio del Toro basically being in the bathtub, and you miss out on a lot of details when you don't get the whole frame. And this is one of those movies where you really need to see it on the biggest screen possible, because every frame a painting, without a doubt. Of course, it's almost redundant to say it with a Wes Anderson film, but I have to say it every single time, because people are like, I mean, it's a Wes Anderson movie, maybe I'll just wait for it to go on streaming and I watch it at home on a laptop. What if on a phone? No, do not do that. Like, go to the cinema and watch this film, because it will be 100% worth it.
Is this supposed to be here? It was under the lunch trolley.
Oh dear.
How much time does it say?
18 minutes.
Perfectly fine. We land in 10. Myself, I feel very safe.
Honestly, I loved it. I really loved it. I can't think of a single negative thing about it, because pacing wise, I also was never actually bored. And even though I had to rewatch the first 15 minutes, I was like, well, now I have the time to look for more details that I missed out, and I missed out on a lot of things. And weirdly enough, it made some sequences make more sense as well, especially some action sequences, because as I said before, he has produced a lot of more action in this movie than in his previous films, and it really pays off, in my opinion. makes the movie way more fast-paced for a movie that could be incredibly boring when you think about it. And I love the practical effects when it comes to the magic tricks that they keep using, and all the different assassinations and callbacks and kind of Chekhov's guns that he hides on certain sequences that come back as jokes later on over and over again. He's such a clever screenwriter, and he has such an incredible team behind him as a DP, of course, and the music, I don't know, like, is definitely, once again, as I said in my previous video, one of the most consistently good directors in film history, without a doubt. Like, at this point, I almost want to put him at the same height as Hitchcock, just because he's done such incredible work over and over again. Having said that, where does it stand in my ranking? Let's have a look. So the first place, we've got I Love Dogs, because I absolutely love his stop animation works, and as I've said in the previous video, well, when you've got stop animation, you can make reality and shape it into whatever you want, and this is what Wes Anderson excels at. So like, all the limitations that you can imagine for him in live action mode, he doesn't have them with stop motion animation, and you can really tell. I absolutely love this film. Then on second place, we've got the Grand Budapest Hotel, which is an incredible film that a lot of people love, and like this one here, the Phoenician Scheme, there's a lot of traveling around, and he's really like exploring a lot of European architectural cultures as well, and I just really love it. On third place, I actually put the Phoenician Scheme, because I think that it's an incredible film, and we'll see if the recency bias drops it down a little bit. We'll have to see about that. It's too early to tell. On fourth place, I put the Royal Tenenbaums, which is a movie that I really love and resonate with. This is one of the first few movies in his filmography where he really found his style. It's one of those movies that you can really describe as depressingly beautiful. The next one is going to be Moonrise Kingdom, which is a really fun and heartwarming film, which is an interesting story that I've not seen on screen before. Then on number 6, I put Asteroid City. It has been put down a little bit, I think, just remembering of my previous ranking, just because I think that the limitations of setting everything in one town definitely hurts a little bit the potential of what Wes Anderson can do. Then on number 7, I put The French Dispatch, which is a really good, well-executed Wes Anderson film, and there's nothing else I can add about it, mostly because it felt almost too niche. This is Wes Anderson at his most niche point ever, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people love it, but this is the kind of film where, you know, weird cinephiles would probably love it, as in those people who talk constantly about weird Vietnamese movies that were shot in the 50s. This is probably their favorite Wes Anderson film, because it feels very inaccessible. And number 8, I put The Darjeeling Limited, which is a really fun film that I actually don't remember that much now that I think about it, and it would definitely deserve a rewatch.
You don't love me! Yes, I do!
I love you too, but I'm gonna mace you in the face! Stop!
Fantastic Mr. Fox, which is a really nice film at the end of the day. You could really tell that he was experimenting with the stop motion animation style. It didn't resonate as much with me than with all the other films, but it's still incredibly well made. And here we get into the categories of films that have been made in the first few years of his career that I don't really like, but I could see that it was the beginning of something incredible. And I put Rushmore, I put Life Aquatic and Bottle Rocket at the very end of this ranking, just because those are the least memorable of the three, without a doubt. Life Aquatic in particular, it's one of those films that if I were to do a marathon, I would skip it, because I thought that it was quite mediocre. I feel like it was missing the sauce. Maybe the story was not good enough, maybe Bill Murray was even like phoning in his performance a little bit, but at the end of the day, I was sitting there being like, I really do not get this movie. And it's actually quite popular that people have this opinion about Life Aquatic. Not a lot of people like that movie, and when it comes to the two other ones, it is literally its first few films, so it makes sense that they will not be perfect, at least not when you have such a high with all of the other ones in his filmography. I hope I will be able to come back on this channel very soon. Maybe I will have to do a bit of a vlog thing, because I will not have this beautiful background for quite some time, because I'm waiting to move out all of my stuff into the new apartment. But anyways, let me know down in the comments what your ranking is for Wes Anderson's filmography, and if you like this video, as usual, here down at the bottom, I'm gonna gonna be putting all the stuff that you can encounter on my channel, maybe Wes Anderson themed, or maybe some stuff that weird cinephiles would love as well. Here at the top, I'm gonna be putting the topic of the next video. I have no idea what it is gonna be about. I'm pretty sure that we're entering a Fantastic Four era, so maybe it's gonna be about that. Why not? Let's cross our fingers that I'll be able to make a review for that movie, because I'm really excited to see it. Having said that, don't forget to smash that like button. Every single time that you do that, you make sure that Wes Anderson and his entire team get an applause from you.
Can I count on you?
From their fans, from everyone on the planet, because honestly, his movies are always incredible, and there is such an incredible way to escape reality, even though he talks about interesting themes sometimes, like with the Phoenician Scheme was a really good example. I feel like we need a little bit more unity and control and beautiful imagery in our lives, and Wes Anderson is always there to deliver it for us. I'm Patrick, and this is Torn Apart.
Back in the 90s, I was in a very famous TV show.
I'm on the phone every day with studios telling them I need more money for my stop-motion Holocaust movie. You think I have time to deal with this? If everything isn't center frame, how is the audience supposed to know it's my movie?